comments on recommendations coming from the airport?
Maybe it might be best to let Mel have make his presentation on behalf of the airport board as chairman there, and give you the benefit of the board's thinking on this.
Mr. Mcquarrie, representation of the airport board and the chair of the board.
Thank you. And I think we discussed this in a work meeting a little while back. I would like, we had much discussion with this. This isn't a hurried decision. These decisions come from probably many years of discussion. Since I've been involved since August, actually June, July, August. What it really boils down to, and I'll repeat myself when I said before, I apologize. But hopefully, just to keep it clear, refresh everybody's memory. The philosophy, in 1992, 93, the all hangars were built. And at the time, we didn't have the airport was pretty sad. It was a good airport, but there was not much, it wasn't very popular, there was just a few interested. And the goal was, how do we attract this airport to become a real airport? How do we get people here to come participate? We've got to get the landings up. The more landings you have is the way they determine whether you qualify for funding. So if we want to build an asset for the community, how do we do it? So we tried, initially the airport leases were, we'll give you the ground for 30 years and build a hangar, and then you revert that to the city after 30 years. Essentially, there's zero payment. Very low payment. I'm not familiar with $50 a year. So essentially, you get non-payment of the lease land underneath the hangar. They did this job. They got people to come. They got people to invest into the airport. Okay, 2000, next hangar project. It started out as the same philosophy. Let's develop this. Let's build hangars, and it was a private development. It was private money to build it. Dan's hangar, and then initially we're going to be 30-year reversionary leases. Then the talk came was how do we get the Heber Valley citizens not to pay out of the general fund? How do we make the airport grow? We've got a 5% match for funding that comes out of the federal government. How are we going to meet that obligation and actually have a business plan on how to grow the airport and take full advantage of the improvements that we can receive and the money we can receive? Through the much discussion, I was not involved with the airport board at that time. We decided to go to a non-reversionary lease. We decided, the council came in and said that they're okay with changing the lease form. And what that allowed was to get the money up front, start getting paid today. So we set a lease rate, we set a CPI to the lease rate, and essentially what we planned worked. It worked well because people were attracted to come in and invest money and have some ownership in it, and they're willing to pay to go on lease rate. The going lease rate It's, you know, CPI's geared it up down. It started, I think, at 25 cents a square foot. It's upwards of 34 cents a square foot, I believe. 32, 34. The going rate, if a lease was written today, would probably be more than that, because, you know, the market's climbed a little bit more. But in essence, we stuck with the plan, and we've been 15 years down the road, and it's worked. It's created the cash flow, it's created self-sufficiency at the airport. Now, the last 8 hangars that were built, they're reversionary leases, and they not only pay for the hangar, they're charged, I don't know what the lease rate, I assume it's the same lease rate. The question you've got to ask there is you've got to say, well, maybe there's a market. The market you have is what somebody's willing to pay and come participate. So at some point you price people out of the market, and some come, some don't. So if you get the price too high, very few come. It's just supply and demand. What are people willing to do? And I think there's some medium how to get there. You know, what we're trying to do to maximize one, meeting a service for the you know, for aviation, because that's the whole reason the federal government invests in it. They want to provide a service. They want to have runways. They want to have it to a certain standard. They want to know pilots flying across the country and look on a chart and they can say, yeah, this is good and safe, and this is what we can land this airplane. That's the program. And so what the board's been tasked with is, hey, what's going to work the best? And at the end of the day, we came up with non-reversionary, and because one, we know it works, and two, it reduces, you know, we're maximizing the return today. And so if a new lease is written today, we can write that lease to its maximum potential. And that potential would be what is somebody willing to pay. Same as if you bought a reversionary lease, it's the same thing, only now you've got to say he's going to want to pay, somebody's going to want to pay less for a lease if they got to pay up front per hangar that they've got to turn over to the city. So it's the same economics. But you know, the city's going to wait for 30 years to get the asset the other way. So if we stay non-reversionary forward, and we maximize our leases, and we also shed the, you know, I talked about liability, and I'm not, and liability is a lot of things. I mean, it's, you know, city takes ownership of a hangar. Now they have the liability of, if they're going to rent that hangar to somebody, now they're going to get a ground lease that's higher, they're going to get a hangar lease because they get the value of the hangar and the ground lease. Well, we know what that was set at because we had 8 of them when we had them leased. And, you know, roughly, let's just use an example. We have a $300,000 hangar value. The typical for maintenance on a $300,000 asset, you probably plan for 1% a year. So you've got $3,000 a year you need to set aside for maintenance. You're probably going to, if you're going to rent that hangar, your insurance premium is going to probably be roughly $3,000, $3,500 a year. So you might collect $12,000 in rent, but now you've already been kicked back to, you know, $6,000 really actually the city's going to see using it. Well, you can get that in a land lease and not have a liability. You can get that in a land lease from the hangar owners because that's what, you know, today that's pretty darn close to what somebody's willing to pay. But, so it doesn't make sense. We know it's work. We, you know, and the other liability the city's going to take on is, I mean, you're going to take on 30-year-old stuff, and you're going to be at the mercy of, if you have 20 hangars that end up done, and 15 more years from now, and you took them over, what do you do with them? Do you have vacuum the market, do you not? I mean, you know, it's a landlord business is not a fun business. And it's the same as the development business. I've experienced it, cities experienced it. I think we leave it to the private sector to do what they do best. They figure out a way, they use their own money, they build the asset, not bring it. We need to leave it non-reversionary per the board's recommendation. This is where we've come back time and time again. We know it works because Daniel's Hangers works. We know we can, down the road, we set a new lease rate at what the market will bear, and then it climbs with CPI. You know, if you run the numbers, they turn out, I believe, you'll have the use of your money up front versus at the end, and you know it's a sure thing, and you know the city has the least liability. So, you know, the other thing that you need to understand too is if the city takes over and owns a hangar, let's just say Hangar Road, an example. 9 more years, you're going to pick up quite a few if things don't change, you know, if they're left alone. If we go to an expansion, if we choose to go to an expansion, the city chooses. The FAA will not be the city for Los Angeles. The FAA will not do anything other than tell them to tear them down. They may help pay to tear them down, but they won't, you know. The rules are the city can't be in the business of making money off the FAA. So, but if they're privately held, you know, like right now, I would guess there's $3 million worth of assets sitting there if they're privately held. They, you know, if the airport was expanded, that could be a line item in the funding that is available. And they could pay a private owner to evacuate their hangar and put them somewhere else. So that it preserves their value. So then somebody will come along, anybody can come along and they can see the value in the asset and they're willing to pay for it. That makes the asset stay valuable. If there's 5 years left on a lease and the city's going to get it, nobody's going to come. That asset's pretty much almost depleted. It's gone. So, I noticed you've got an email today, I guess, copy with one of the board members. I guess I plead with you, the majority of the board, other than that one member that I'm aware of, all are in support of what we recommended to the council. And that has to do with the lease, the non-reversionary lease forward. The rest of this document is well-needed plan, you know, a plan or a roadmap so that we start treating everybody the same. And we do the best of our ability to do so in case somebody wants to come in and compete with the FBO, or, you know, it doesn't lock it up so somebody has a monopoly. It has a procedure that if somebody wants to come play and put money into this airport, they can do it. And everybody's treated the same. And that's our goal as the board, is we want people consistently treated the same. We want to minimize the exposure to the city for liability and long-term maintenance, and we want to maximize the return to the airport community so we can keep the funding self-sufficient with the airport and keep the airport self-sufficient. Our recommendation is, as it's presented,